Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Dr. English Channel podcast. I'm David, and today we're diving into a topic that has shaped leaders, thinkers, and everyday people throughout history. It's the idea that you become what you think. It sounds simple, maybe even too simple, but the impact is massive. And of course, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Anna. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, David. And honestly, I'm excited for this topic. This idea, you become what you think, has been repeated in philosophy, psychology, spirituality, neuroscience, and personal development. It's powerful, but a lot of people either misunderstand it or underestimate it. So I'm looking forward to breaking it open today. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe our channel. It helps us a lot.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, grab your coffee, tea, or whatever fuels your brain. Because for the next couple of hours, we're going deep into how your mind shapes your reality, how your thoughts influence your habits, your identity, your confidence, your direction, and ultimately, your life.
Let's start with something really simple. David, do you remember the first time you heard the phrase, you become what you think? Because I remember being really young, hearing something similar like, your thoughts create your world, and I didn't believe it at all.
Yes, I think my first exposure to it was in a book when I was in college. I was stressed, overwhelmed, trying to figure out my life, and I came across this idea that your dominant thoughts shape your behavior, your habits, and your self-image. And I kind of laughed. I thought, so what? If I just think I'm confident, I'll suddenly be confident? It felt unrealistic.
Exactly. It feels too magical, right? Like positive thinking alone can change your life. But that's not actually what this concept means. It's not about wishful thinking. It's about the idea that repeated thoughts form beliefs, beliefs form identity, and your identity drives your actions.
Right. You don't become what you imagine randomly. You become what you repeat consistently in your mind. If you constantly think you're not good enough, you start acting like it. You avoid opportunities. You shrink. You apologize for existing. But if you think, I can grow, I can improve, and I can figure this out, your actions shift.
And your brain shifts too. That's the fascinating part. Neuroscience confirms this. Repeated thoughts create stronger neural pathways. So if you constantly think negative thoughts, those pathways get stronger. If you think empowering thoughts, those pathways get stronger. It's literally rewiring your brain.
Which means every time you think, you're building a version of yourself. And the scary part is, most people never think about what they think about.
Yes, they just let thoughts run wild like untrained animals. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, insecure, or stuck. If you don't take control of your thoughts will control you.
Let's talk about examples because listeners love hearing real situations. Anna, what's a moment in your life where your thinking created your reality?
Oh, I have a good one. When I started my first job, I had this belief that I was not smart enough. I don't even know where I got that idea. But every day I woke up thinking, I'm probably going to mess up today. Guess what? I did mess up constantly. Not because I lacked ability, but because I was operating from fear. I was trying to avoid mistakes instead of focusing on doing good work.
That's so relatable.
But then a mentor of mine told me, you're not performing poorly because you're incapable. You're performing poorly because you believe you're incapable. That hit me like a train. So I started telling myself every morning, I can learn, I can improve, I can handle what comes my way. And slowly, my behavior changed. Then my performance changed. And soon my boss trusted me with big tasks.
So you didn't change overnight. Your thinking changed first, and your results followed.
Exactly. The mind leads, the life follows.
I had something similar. When I first started podcasting, I thought, why would anyone listen to me? I felt like an imposter. I kept imagining people judging me. So I spoke quietly, I hesitated, I rambled. But then I realized if I keep imagining the worst, I'm creating the worst.
Yes.
So I started imagining something else. I imagined one listener, just one, who needed to hear something encouraging that day. I focused on speaking to that one person. And suddenly, everything flowed. My confidence grew, and the podcast grew with it.
That's a perfect example of how thought impacts identity and performance. Let's dive deeper into the idea of identity, because this is the real heart of you become what you think.
Yes, most people try to change their lives by changing their actions, but actions come from identity, and identity comes from thoughts. If you think, I'm lazy, you will act lazy. If you think, I never stick to things, you won't stick to things. But if you change your inner script, your actions begin to match it.
It's why people say, tell me your thoughts and I'll tell you your future.
Exactly. You can't outperform your own self-image.
Let's talk about something many listeners struggle with: negative self talk. Those little statements that play in your head like, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I always fail. No one believes in me. I'm not attractive. What's the point? These thoughts may feel small, but repeated thoughts become identities.
100%. And here's something powerful. Not every thought you think is true. In fact, many of your thoughts are simply old programming.
Yes, just because you think it doesn't mean it's reality.
Thoughts are like clouds. They pass by. But we treat them like mountains, immovable and permanent.
So true. And people attach meaning to thoughts instantly. You think, I'm bad at conversations, and suddenly that becomes a personality trait.
And then you behave according to it. You avoid speaking. You become shy. But what created that behavior? A single thought repeated hundreds of times.
Let's talk about the power of focus, because what you think is influenced by what you consistently focus on.
Yes, if you focus on problems, you see more problems. If you focus on opportunities, you see more opportunities.
The mind finds what it looks for.
It's like buying a new car. You never noticed it on the road before, but suddenly you see that car everywhere. Your mind simply pays attention to what you highlight.
So if someone keeps thinking life is hard, their mind collects evidence to prove that life is hard. But if they think life teaches me and I grow from it, their mind collects different evidence.
Let's do something interactive for listeners. Right now, wherever you are, listening in your car, at home, or walking, think about something you want to become. A skill, a mindset, a version of yourself. Just think about it clearly for a moment.
Now, notice what feelings arise: excitement, fear, doubt. Whatever comes up reveals your belief about yourself. If you felt fear, it means your thoughts are telling you maybe you can't. But the moment you shift that narrative, everything opens.
This is why affirmations exist. They're not magic, they're repetition. They replace old thoughts with new ones.
Exactly. They train your mind the same way you train muscles.
I want to talk about something deeper now, how thoughts affect behavior through emotion. People don't act from logic, they act from feelings, but feelings come from thoughts.
Right. If you think I'm going to fail, you feel anxious. If you feel anxious, you avoid taking action. But the root was a thought, not the situation.
when you think empowering thoughts, you generate empowering emotions. Confidence, courage, motivation, they're all byproducts of thought patterns.
This is why morning routines, journaling, meditation, visualization, these practices matter. They set the tone for your thinking.
You choose the direction of your mind before the world chooses it for you.
That's a good line. Say it again.
You choose the direction of your mind before the world chooses it for you.
I love that. Now that we've covered how thoughts influence identity and behavior, I want to talk about something most people don't realize. Your internal dialogue is actually a conversation between you and your future. Every thought is like a vote for who you are becoming.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Most people think thoughts are harmless mental noise, but really, they're instructions. They tell your brain what to pay attention to, what to feel, and how to act. If your thoughts are constantly negative, your brain becomes conditioned to expect negativity. If they're hopeful, your brain looks for possibility.
And here's the tricky part. Thoughts feel automatic, but most of them are just habits. They're patterns you've repeated for years, sometimes since childhood. Maybe a teacher told you you weren't good enough. Maybe someone laughed at you. Maybe you failed once and never tried again.
Yes, and your mind recorded those moments like a camera, then replayed them again and again until they became beliefs. But beliefs aren't facts, they're simply thoughts you've rehearsed.
Exactly. And once you understand that, you realize you can rehearse new ones. You can build a new mental script.
Let's talk about something practical. What happens inside your brain when you change your thinking? Because this is not magic, it's neuroscience.
Right. When you think a thought, neurons fire. When you repeat a thought, those neurons connect. And when you constantly repeat a thought, that connection becomes a pathway. It becomes easy for your brain to think that thought again. So if you repeatedly think, I'm not confident, your brain actually becomes better at producing that thought.
And worse, at producing the opposite thought.
Exactly. But the moment you introduce a new thought, like, I can become confident, you start building a new pathway. It's weak at first, it feels fake, but every repetition strengthens it. Over time, it becomes the dominant pathway, and the old one fades.
This is why people underestimate self-talk. They think it sounds cheesy, but really, it's mental training.
Athletes do it, entrepreneurs do it, artists do it, students do it. Anyone who wants to perform at a high level trains their mind before they train their craft.
Let's do a quick demonstration. Listeners, think about something you struggle with. Public speaking, confidence, discipline, learning English, anything. Now notice the automatic thought that appears when you imagine yourself doing it.
It might be something like, I always mess this up, or people will judge me, or I'm not good at this. Those thoughts feel natural only because they have been repeated. But imagine replacing that thought with, I can improve, or I can handle this, or I'm growing every day.
Just changing that thought will slightly change how you feel. And that slight emotional shift can change how you act. And repeated action creates a new identity. This is why your thoughts matter. They are the starting point of every transformation.
Let's talk about obstacles, because a lot of listeners probably think, well, my mind is just negative. That's how I am.
Yes, but Your mind is not a fixed object. It's a tool, and tools can be sharpened, refined, and trained.
Negative thinking is not your identity. It's a habit.
Let me share a personal story. When I was younger, I used to jump to worst-case scenarios. If someone didn't text me back, I assumed they were upset with me. If I got feedback at work, I assumed I was in trouble. My mind was constantly trying to protect me from fear by imagining danger everywhere, even when there was none.
That's such a common mental pattern.
One day, a friend told me something that changed my life. They said, "David, your mind is acting like a smoke detector. It keeps going off not because there's a fire, but because it's overly sensitive." And that hit me. My mind wasn't trying to hurt me, it was trying to protect me, but it overprotected me to the point where it held me back.
That's powerful. And I think a lot of listeners can relate. Your mind wants safety, not success. Safety means staying the same, avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort. But growth happens in discomfort. So your mind actually fights the very change you need.
Exactly. And that's why intention matters. When you intentionally choose empowering thoughts, you override the default fear-based programming.
Let's talk about a common misconception. People think positive thinking means ignoring problems. But actually, it means approaching problems with a mindset that helps you solve them.
Yes, positive thinking isn't everything is perfect. It's, I can handle whatever happens.
It turns you from a victim of circumstances to a creator of outcomes.
Let's dig into how thinking affects relationships, because the way you think doesn't just influence your personal success, it affects how you treat people.
Definitely. For example, if you constantly think people don't care about me, you will behave in ways that push people away. You might close off, avoid vulnerability, or misinterpret someone's actions.
I've seen that so many times. Someone expects rejection, so they behave defensively. And then when people respond to that defensive energy, they say, "See, nobody likes me."
It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. But if you think people are generally kind and I can build great relationships, you show up differently. You smile more, you open up, you connect more.
And the world responds to the energy you project. You become what you think, and your relationships become what you think too.
Let's talk about thinking and opportunity. Some people think opportunities never come to them, but often the opportunities are there, they just don't believe they can take them.
That belief blocks their vision. One person sees a challenge and thinks, "This is too hard." Another person sees the same challenge and thinks, "This is my moment." Same situation, different mindset, completely different life trajectory.
I want to bring up identity statements because they are incredibly powerful. Statements like, I'm the kind of person who keeps promises to myself. I'm the kind of person who learns from mistakes. I'm the kind of person who grows through challenges. These shape your behavior deeply because they define your identity.
Identity statements are like code. You write them in your mind and your actions follow automatically. This is why highly successful people don't just think about what they want to achieve, they think about who they want to become.
Absolutely. They train their thoughts to match the identity they want.
Let's shift into something emotional, how past experiences influence your thinking. Sometimes your thoughts aren't negative because they're logical, they're negative because they were formed during painful moments.
Yes, A person who was embarrassed once might create a belief like, I'm terrible at speaking. A person who was rejected might create a belief like, I'm unworthy. But those moments were experiences. They were not definitions.
And your thoughts can update your past, not change what happened, but change the meaning of what happened.
You can tell yourself, that moment taught me, instead of that moment broke me.
You become what you think, even about your past.
That's deep, and it's true. Your past doesn't define you unless you keep thinking it does.
And your future doesn't wait for you, it waits for your thoughts.
Beautifully said.